What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Los Angeles Rams Insider Podcast on Sports Illustrated with myself, Tom Cavanaugh. We have a lot to get to today, and we got an update breaking story that came out yesterday for one of the Rams' NFC rival teams. A couple head coaches on Monday Night Football in this upcoming Week 10 matchup that have never faced each other as head coaches of their respective organizations. And we also have a few takes from a couple players on the Rams and the Dolphins side as we prep for Rams-Dolphins Monday Night Football. Going to be a great one. Before we get going, I want to take a second to give a big thanks to Fans First Sports Network for providing all of our content on their site. It's great to get it all out on any platform that we can, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, you name it, YouTube. It's really awesome. So FFSN, big shout out to them and Brian Davis for putting all this together over the last week and a half. It's episode 7 on November 8th, a Friday, here in 2024, and we're really inching closer to this Monday Night Football matchup that means a lot for both sides. The Dolphins, they're a 2-6 squad looking to really rebuild halfway through the season because they have not been able to find any offensive success. We'll get to that a little bit later. And for the Rams, they're trying to get a winning record for the first time all year. They started out 0-1. They were 1-4 to start the year, so they have not really smelled what a winning record is in the 2024-25 season. You can follow me on Twitter at TCAV30. You can go over and follow our Insider page as well on Facebook and Twitter at Rams Insider on SI. And then if you want to read all of our content from several of our amazing writers, just type in Los Angeles Rams on SI in your search bar and you'll find us right away. So we'll get cracking here, starting with the NFC West update. A big news coming out of San Francisco this past day. Tom Pelissero, NFL insider, he reported that Christian McCaffrey could be making his season debut. Head coach Kyle Shanahan of the Niners spoke in his press conference on Thursday and had this to say. I do feel good one way or the other. He's had 2 good days. He's been awesome the last 2 days. So hopefully that continues to go well, and I expect to get him out there. And you never know for a setback or anything, but these 2 days have been great, and I expect to see him out there. So Shanahan, right from the horse's mouth, says that McCaffrey is likely going to play. I don't know how many touches he's going to get. I don't know how limited he'll be throughout the game. Obviously, trying to work him back in. Don't want to put too much on him in his first return of the season. But he's been dealing with Achilles tendonitis in both of his feet. He's been struggling with injuries the last couple of years. He had 2 last season, a rib injury, and then also had a calf tear later in the season. In Week 17, obviously went on to the Super Bowl, second time in 5 years. The Niners have achieved that feat, ended up losing to the back-to-back defending champs, the Kansas City Chiefs. But McCaffrey battled through injuries. He was unable to go for the first several weeks of this season, but it looks like he should be back. And for any of those wondering about Achilles tendonitis, it's basically just an inflammation of your Achilles tendon. The way that your calves work and the way that you're able to create a lot of force from your legs is this band of tissue that connects from your calf down to your heel. And obviously, next to that Achilles tendon and everything, when it starts to get inflamed and you get that tendonitis, you can barely walk, man. So there's no real way that McCaffrey was going to be able to battle through that injury like he did the rib and the other calf injury last year. So it's good that they were able to kind of hold him off, but it's hurt their record. The Niners are tied at second in the NFC West right now with the Rams at 4-4. And besides McCaffrey, there's been several other injuries. Brandon Ayuk went down a few weeks ago. Juwan Jennings has had his fair share. Deebo Samuel had pneumonia. He was in the hospital a few weeks ago. So, this injury bug for the Niners team has really bit them this season after staying pretty healthy. George Kittle's the Iron Man. He's the one that has continued. He's been questionable a few weeks, but really the consistent one, along with Brock Purdy on the offensive side, to stay on the field. But that's big news for the Niners. And if McCaffrey stays healthy throughout the rest of this year, the Rams will see him in Week 15. And because of how both of these seasons are trending, the Rams playing better football, and Kyle Shanahan's group over the last several seasons, they do the same thing. They get off to a slow start early in the year, and then in the back half of the season, they rip off 6 or 7 straight wins. They're in the playoff picture, end up winning the NFC West. So it's going to be between the Rams and the Niners coming down the stretch in Week 15. That game's going to mean a whole lot for that division title barring any crazy comeback from the Seahawks. They're at 4-5, and then right now it's driver's seat for the Arizona Cardinals. And I could see them finishing out the year really well and really compete for that division along with the Rams and the Niners. But that Week 15 game when Los Angeles has to take on McCaffrey, if healthy, that's going to be a big game. Moving on to a pretty sweet storyline that we have for Monday Night Football. Coaches Sean McVay of the Rams and Mike McDaniel. It's a battle of the mix. I can't tell you how many different MC head coaches there are in the NFL. I can't count them all. I mean, McDaniel, McDermott, McVay. I mean, I could go on all day. McDaniels, before he was let go from that Broncos and the Raiders the last several years. But yeah, these two they're gonna face each other for the first time in their history as head coaches. Now, both were assistants from 2011 till 2013 under head coach Mike Shanahan of the Washington Redskins. And this will be the first time that they'll see each other. McDaniel for the Dolphins came into his position in 2022. He has only played Los Angeles teams twice, and it was both against the Chargers. So never had to be able to face against Matthew Stafford, Sean McVay. And this is going to be an interesting matchup because these are two guys that were brought up in the same system, kind of the young whiz kid type of coaches. You're seeing that more and more now in the NFL where organizations, general managers, owners, they're all trusting in that younger core of head coaches because it's just a different brand of football they're running. And they were taught, both of these guys, from Mike Shanahan, one of the smartest minds in all of the entire National Football League. And you can see it. I mean, the Dolphins went off for 70 points last year. McDaniel brings such an explosive offense. Traditionally, they haven't been that way this season, averaging just 15.5 points, which is good for second worst in the league. But it's definitely something that has really grown over the last couple of years as these younger coaches. I mean, McVay was the youngest coach in the NFL when he joined his position several years ago. So we're going to see some schemes that are very, very similar. It's not like you got an Andy Reid versus a McVay where you got two differing age groups and different, I guess, approaches to the offense and to the entire team coaching-wise. But, I mean, McDaniel, McVay should be very, very exciting. And from a fan's perspective as well, something to watch for pre- and post-game, all the smiles. But between the lines, when the clock is running, it's going to be all business. I want to hit on a few quotes from Thursday's press availability for the Rams. Matthew Stafford spoke, and he really gave some high praise for his veteran wide receiver, Demarcus Robinson. Now, Demarcus, I mean, my goodness, he's got 4 touchdown catches in his last 2 games. That's amongst 8 receptions. So whenever he's catching the ball, half the time it's in the end zone, and he's bringing it down. And that's including a one-handed 39-yard touchdown strike in overtime to beat the Seahawks last week on the road. DeMarcus has been awesome, and his growth has continued. He was a Super Bowl champion back in 2020 with the Kansas City Chiefs, spent the 22 season with Baltimore, and he is now in his second year with LA. And I mean, his growth and production has really, really increased for a couple of reasons. We've already spoken past episodes about Nacua and Kupp being down, and that has led to more targets for Robinson. But with that hot hand continuing to play well from the outside in the pass game, keep giving him the ball. Why not? I know Kupp and Nacua are all pro guys, but if you can add a third to that list and a veteran that's been to a Super Bowl and won it, you got to utilize that. And Matthew Stafford has done a really, really nice job of that. Robinson, you can't really say much else. I mean, he's got over 130 yards in his past couple of games. He got off to a slow start this season, but has really picked it up, and there's been no answer for opposing defenses. Stafford had this to say. He said, "I think for a guy his size, he's sudden and explosive. He is not a small person. He's a big dude, wiry, sudden mover, and has a great feel for what's going to get him open. Some guys just have a great feel. He does a great job of that, especially in those sticky man-to-man type of situations. He has done a nice job of finishing some big plays for us, so that's a huge plus." And he hit it on the nose. I mean, big plays galore for him. Over 90 yards receiving last week against the Seahawks, with a couple of touchdowns, and the week before against Minnesota had a pair as well. And those are both weeks when Kupp and Nacua were in the ball game. So DeMarcus getting high praise from his 16-year veteran quarterback, and we'll look forward to another week of seeing DeMarcus shine. One other presser quote I want to hit on today comes out of Miami. Head coach Mike McDaniel spoke to the media, and he mentioned kind of that relationship he has with Coach McVay, pretty much talking about how they're such a consistent, straining outfit as a team, talking about the Rams. Very detailed, going to compete well because, I mean, that's what McDaniel was brought up, taught to do, and is following suit is going to be McVay. So those two, as we spoke about earlier, they're going to have a good game plan for each other because they know very well what each other is going to bring. He also mentioned the offense and the struggles. I talked about it a minute ago, dropped the stat on you guys, 15 and a half points per game for this Dolphins team. Now, they have scored 27 points in each of their last two games. Both were losses, though. I mean, this Dolphins team's riding a couple game losing streak currently because their defense has just not held up. They're middle of the pack in multiple categories. They have a decent pass defense with former Ram Jalen Ramsey a part of that group. But, I mean, they gave up 30 to Buffalo last week after scoring 27 points, and it looked like that Dolphins team was going to come up offensively. They just could not help on the other side of the ball to stay in front. And then you look at the connection between two guys, quarterback Tua Tagovailoa and Tyreek Hill. He's a multi-Pro Bowler, won several championships as well. I mean, Tyreek, widely known as one of the best, one of the fastest wide receivers in the entire NFL. And a quick stat that I was able to pull as well, it was from a reporter with the Dolphins, I should say, kind of dropped it on McDaniel and said that last season there were over 30 catches between Tua and Hill for over 25 yards. So they had that big play going. So far this season, that's only happened 5 times. And we'll give you one more quote here from McDaniel. He goes on to say, I think it's important in football. Defenses have really taken notice of those explosive plays, and they've tried to prevent him by doubling him, talking about Tyreek Hill. I think as a result, it's forced a lot of the offense to get better. It's forced Tua to get on the same page with a lot of other eligibles, and it's forced our offensive line to block and our runners to run, and Tyreek to run block a little bit. So they kind of have to make some adjustments. This was not the same team, the same success that we saw last year when they posted a 70-20 win over the Denver Broncos. Teams are starting to adjust to what McDaniel is bringing from an offensive standpoint, and it's showing. They're taking away Tyreek Hill. They're doubling the heck out of him, and it's got to go to other guys. Jalen Waddle, he's another high-touted receiver on this Dolphins team. He's battled a few injuries this season. He'll be back in for this week against the Rams, but they got to find other ways to hit through the pass game. They have a pretty solid rush attack in Devon Achane, a second-year guy, and veteran Raheem Mostert, who had double-digit touchdown scores last year as well, was a fantasy monster. So it's going to be on Tua and Tyreek to really try to get going against the Rams defense that has been stout of late. That's going to do it for us here on the Los Angeles Rams Insider Podcast on Sports Illustrated. So happy to be able to update you guys on a few different things and some storylines heading into Monday Night Football between the 4-4 Los Angeles Rams and 2-6 Miami Dolphins. Once again, follow us on the Fans First Sports Network. Head over to Los Angeles Rams on SI for all the content, and follow us at Rams Insider on SI, both at Facebook and Twitter. Thanks so much, everybody. We will see you again tomorrow.